again, with the permission to coach you guys, I think that's so cool and it's so important and so eye-opening. Now, the next level, as you start to get entrained in this and it becomes part of your ritual, is I want you to write this down just real quickly and then we'll dive into it. It's story selling. Story selling, all right? So when you're able to tell that same story, or excuse me, give that same example, but through an experience or a story of a client, right? So when we tell that story of getting in an accident, something happens, and we sort of jokingly talk about, well, I don't understand, Geico, I have the lowest cost insurance. This should be covered, right? So you want to, and you know the stories. I mean, you guys are getting claims every day, but people move far faster to avoid pain than they do to gain pleasure. So right now, that's a good example, but it's out there. It could or could not happen. They might take the risk. But when you say, man, one of my clients, they got one of the cherry Teslas from from the production plant here in I forget the city you mentioned, and they only had it for 3 months, and boom, this accident happened, and it wasn't covered. Or one of my clients was telling me the story of it, and it wasn't covered. Now they're like, oh, wow, that did happen. It could happen. So I want to take you guys to the next level. We want to take you guys to the next level. So remember that story creates social proof. People are going to move to avoid that pain.
Absolutely. I mean, I think I shared it with you guys last week. We had a claim. It wasn't their fault. They were covered by Geico, but they had strong liability limits, but their property damage with Geico, they had $250, $500 for their medical or their personal injury liability, but the property damage was $10K. I mean, there aren't many vehicles. Luckily, it was an older car that got hit. We were able to help them, get that $10K out of them. But man, if it had been that Tesla, right? All of a sudden, $90K in the hole for that person that hit our insured. So it's so important. And when you bring those true stories, I mean, Neil couldn't have hit it on the head any harder than what he said. So thanks, Neil.
Awesome. Yeah, you bet. All right, it looks like 10:03. Let's ask for a couple more examples or stories, and let's dive in.
Yeah. So looks like Crystal had something here. I'd take you off mute. Thanks, JD. Thanks for sharing. He must have muted himself. Hey, Crystal.
Hey.
Hey. So walk me through your statement here. We do that same comparison with clients when they call.
Just share with us what's working, what's not working.
Well, as far as property damage is concerned, whenever someone does want low limits of that, we kind of throw out the comparison too, because down here in Georgia, where people spend a lot of money on their trucks and stuff, you have your $20,000 car versus their $90,000 truck, and you kind of have to make them do the math sometimes to make them understand, the coverage and how much it actually means.
Yes, love that. So another important point, do the math, tie it to pain. Do the math, tie it to pain. Right, because they're just so conditioned, lowest price, but we're really uncovering what matters to them. They love that truck down where you are, and every place is different, so you've got to find that thing, understand the commonalities in your area, but you do the math, and then again, what matters most to them is protecting that valuable asset, or more importantly, the family inside of that asset. Okay, so awesome. I love to see these light bulbs and these breakthroughs.
Awesome. And it looks like, I'd like to address one last thing. We have Mickey here. And you bring up a great point, Mickey. Yeah, absolutely. Geico can be $800 less, and I did unmute you, and you still get quote-unquote good coverage. But the difference, look at the scenario that we had happen, right? Something could be wrong. They had $250,000, $500,000 for their liability. They don't get an office, right? They don't get you guys. They don't get a staff. They get an 800 number. Now, is everybody going to move over and everybody going to see the value? No, of course not. But we want to move more of those people in the middle that weren't going to move. That's the difference, right? This doesn't there's no magic bullet. It doesn't mean everybody's buying. But if we can,
and more importantly, it's all about this whole training, guys, is about being trusted advisors. Okay, so yeah, 800, Geico's got good coverage. I mean, shoot, Allstate bought them. It is an Allstate company, so it's good. We are hunting for the people who want trusted advisors, who realize, right? It's like, you could go and day trade if you want, but many of us will choose a financial advisor because of that relationship. Here too is what we're trying to create in this space. That's what Allstate has come up on. That's why my father's had it, his father's father, is that relationship about protecting what matters most in your life. So if there are people who just want the transaction, move quickly through those. Those are called getting to know. You want to get trusted advisor relationships because those people will keep coming back, even if the price does jump or something happens, because there's a relationship, a level of coverage that is far greater. Same true as in our business. We're looking for folks like you and agency owners who you work for who realize there's more to it, to do the work. We could be selling this platform to everybody. We don't. So you must own, and even just by the nature of this comment, I don't mean to bust your chops, but you have to own it. You're a trusted advisor. We don't want to focus on the problem is that, it's more expensive or less expensive. For you to succeed at being a trusted advisor, we're teaching you these 8 steps, but guess what's the number one? Preparation. If you don't believe that it's valuable to be a trusted advisor and you don't want to be a trusted advisor, it might be a different sales role that you want to look into. And that's what's so fascinating about all this is a unique environment. This is an environment that requires that kind of thing. The Geico environment is a call center environment. All right, let's dive into it. Good stuff here. So, hey, Craig, let me just kind of transition. So Craig is going to get into the next steps that we're doing here are critical. They're really important in terms of building that value and creating buy-in. So Craig is going to walk you guys through this next step. Then I'll transition over to me. This is the doing now. This is actually, if you can believe it, 3 weeks in, this is where we get to articulate the solution. We're creating the value that's going to make it worth investing in. So go ahead, Craig, take it away.
Awesome. Thanks, Neil. Appreciate it. Let's definitely dive in. We're going to just to quickly review, right? We're looking at the 7-step trusted advisor framework, right? We have looked at preparation. So we've created your desired outcomes. Neil just touched on this. If you don't believe it, if you don't feel it, if you're not in it, then it's not going to happen. This is your foundation, right? Guys, this is what we talked about in week 1. If you need to, you can go back and listen to the recording from week 1. And then the second part, first step, shift your focus to the client's needs, right? We must shift to the client's needs. We can't be looking at our phones. We can't be doing Facebook. We have to be 100% focused. When we're on these calls, we're 100% focused on you guys, right? We're laser beam focused to make sure that we're able to satisfy your guys' needs. This is shifts across all walks of life. Last week we touched on establishing rapport, and establishing rapport is peppered throughout the entire conversation. It's not just you establish and you're done. This is something that's ongoing, right? You ongoing and test to make sure you have rapport. If you lose rapport, we talked about what happens on how to get back to getting rapport. But remember, somebody emailed us and said, oh, it's so true. You persuade with your ears, right? Seek to learn and understand, and then they will buy. You are their trusted advisor if you're going to understand what they need, which goes right into diagnose needs, which is where we finished last week. That's the questioning strategy. And it's not just, oh, this is great ideas. You must execute. Execute, guys. You have to implement. You can't just talk about how it's a great thing. You've got to implement. And I'm telling you, you want to get an extra $100. I know it's not a ton, but it's something for you. Send in that call. You'll win. We have a winner this week too. So Now we're going to dive in to building value, but let me reiterate real quick here what it means to be a trusted advisor. If you need to write this down, you need to do a printout, you need to post it across the top of your desk, put it there. It's so true and it's so important. This is what distinguishes us from the Geicos and the Progressives and all the other BS out there, right? We are trusted advisors. A trusted advisor values client relationships over transactions. It's not about this is $800 and we're $1,200 and you know that's about. It doesn't matter. You must value the client's relationship over the transactions. If you appreciate the client, if you do what's best for the client, if you find out what they truly need and what's important to them, everything else melts away. Again, it doesn't mean you get everybody, but you're going to get more of them, significantly more of them. And remember, the client is under the care and guidance of a trusted advisor. It's not a transaction. Today, we're going to talk about build value. Okay? I'm going to work on building value. Then we're going to pivot over to create buy-in. We'll get into what next week is overcoming objections. And I know there's a lot of folks on this call chomping at the bit to overcome objections. Hold off. I'm telling you guys, you nail all this stuff and the objections melt away. Or at least you minimize how many there are, and they're the same usual suspects, and it's just simple. Focus on this stuff. You don't build the second story of the house without building the foundation in the first level. It'd be a pretty crazy house if you just built the second story. So what we're going to do is hop right into the deck here. That is the build value section. So we're going to get in the nuts and bolts. Stop me if you have a question. Neil, can you keep an eye on the question pane because it's hard to do both here?
You bet. You bet.
If something comes up, it looks like we got right at 200 right now. So get ready. Here we go. So building value, guys. This is what they talk about. This is what everybody talks about. But you can't build value without doing the stuff beforehand, right? We talked about all those things. Make sure that we diagnose the needs. We find what is important, and now we're providing the solution. Why do we build value? We'll say it over and over. My staff has heard it a million times. Everybody that has anything to do with Agency Vault has heard this. Price is only an issue in the absence of value. And this is especially pertinent to the clientele that we are going after. If you listen to some of the calls that are posted inside of Agency Vault, I mean, this can apply to everybody. Now remember, high value lives in the client's perception rather than in your explanation. If you create the perception, you show them why it's different, why it is so much different to have an office and a trusted advisor versus a call center where they can call 1,000 times, they get 1,000 different people that don't know what they're doing. We can show them and they perceive that value, they're in, that you have them, that's high value. And remember, take your time. Part of the preparation step and shifting your focus is to understand and recognize that they're not in a hurry. Don't have that preconcept. You cannot have the preconceived perception that the client is in a hurry. And even if they tell you that they're in a hurry, listen back to the tape. Neil had some great things to go over, how to specifically address that. Hey Jim, I need a little breathing room. You got to give me a little breathing room so that we can actually do what's most important to you. To do this in a rush, to do this in a hurry isn't going to work, and we're not going to give you the right solution. If you rush it now, you leave and you get in an accident, that's your fault, and we have the wrong coverages, you could lose everything. It's worth taking a look. Take the time. They're not going to want to go down the street. I love it when they tell you that they want to shop. Hey, I'm here, I'm coming in because I'm checking around, I'm getting lots of quotes. Great. After this 45 minutes, you're not going anywhere. because I'm going to do all of these things that are going to generate a tremendous amount of value. And remember what you're doing. You're also setting the tone, you're setting the table for retention. That's music to all of the agency owners' ears on the phone. Your bosses love the retention. The easiest business to get and keep is the business we already have. So if we set them up with value, when they get that call or they get that letter in the mail, which comes I know if I go out to my mailbox right now, there will be some kind of direct mail piece from some insurance company. We need to make it where they don't even look at it. What? Yeah, why? This guy, hey, Craig took care of me. I'm good. I don't care. I know that I'm going to be taken care of. He found out what was important to me. He delivered on what was important to me. I'm going to work with Craig or Amy or Amber or Alex or Andrew. I'm going to work with that person because I perceive that what I'm exchanging is going to come back to me when I need it. Not a guess. It's all about risk, and they will get their return on their risk. We're going to talk about that. We need to move them off price to what really matters most. We good on questions?
Yeah, just keep driving, baby.
Okay. So to create and build value, you must have a solid, logically flowing presentation. It's not just some random thing. By design, you have to put this together and you have to follow it, and then it works. When you practice this thing, Neil and I joke around about the 6 P's. Proper preparation prevents piss poor performance. That's the 6 P's. Proper preparation prevents piss poor performance. If you have a presentation that's solid, logically flowing, you'll deliver every time. Doesn't mean they're going to buy every time, guys, but you will deliver, and they will purchase more often than they are now if you don't have a solid, logically flowing presentation. So what we talk about, and the handout is down below. It's also in Agency Vault under Build Value, but it's the CPOC framework. We talk about coverages. We talk about package. We talk about your office. And we talk about claim satisfaction guarantee. We're going to get into detail on that. Let me pull it up. Just wanted to get that ready. So, power through this real quick. Another logistical piece, guys, is the flow. Done it all different ways, but if you have a flow where you're not all over the place, again, it's cohesive and the thing's going to work, right? We start with the properties. We move over to the umbrella, which you should be quoting a lot. You should be quoting those umbrellas. Then you move to all others, ATVs, whatever else, and end on the auto. Flow. So coverages. The first part of the CPOC, right? We're going to go through each line of each policy. And when I say line, I mean each coverage. So you start with the coverage, you describe the coverage, you explain the benefit of that coverage and what it means. You can even ask them, are you familiar with what liability means? Are you familiar with what your liability protection is? You have 5,100, you have $250,000, whatever they have currently, whatever you've identified that should be recommended from doing your Build-A-Wall sheet, from diagnosing needs. You're going to describe what it means, what they currently have. You're going to describe what they should have and what that means and explain it. And use what Neil was saying. Story selling. Tell the story. You guys have tons of stories. You see them all day long, every day, through the claims. And talk about when the claim worked out because they did it right. take your time. Ask questions, right? We go back to, on that diagnose need part, we're going to ask questions because we're going to listen with our ears and we're going to find out what's most important to them. It's critical. If you don't know what's most important to them, then all you're doing is that transaction and you're not being a trusted advisor, you're not delivering value. And once you find that button, you have to keep tying back to it. Keep going back to it. Again, you wrap up with the auto. I want to really drive home how important it is to have that logical flow throughout your presentations that you do. So must discuss coverages with the home. Write these things down. Things you must talk about. You're going to talk about scheduled personal property. I know it gets away from you and you forget to bring it up. Bring it up. This is an item, guys. For those agencies that pay on items, hey, this is an item. Get it. And we also, as a trusted advisor, need to make sure that this stuff is protected. Because what will happen if we don't do this, if we don't set expectations, if we don't uncover what they have, which you should know from if you're doing the build a wall, which you need to be doing, you're going to uncover this, right? Do you have any high-end stuff? Any high-end assets, art, whatever they have at their house, you're going to bring it up. Okay, I remember you brought up that you have that artwork. We need to schedule that in the event that something happens. Sewer backup, bring it up. Explain it. We want to cover ourselves so that down the road, if and when one of these things happens, it doesn't come back to, oh, well, Andrea never told me about that. Alex never said that. Then we have to go to the tape, right? Listen to the phone call. And, oh, Alex didn't say that. So let's make sure that we're bringing up those things. Building codes coverage. If this house is older, 10 years or more, throw in that building code coverage. It isn't expensive. But again, you're being a trusted advisor. You're uncovering things that probably aren't going to come up from the call center environment. Loss of use, right? Value add. It doesn't cost a lot to raise their loss of use, but you can add it in there. It's an add. You're bringing up something that they haven't heard before. We want to uncover everything that they possibly could need. And again, it adds to that component of time builds commitment, right? Take your time. You're not in a rush. And if they're in a rush, then you have to tell them about the breathing room. They need to give you some breathing room. Deductible recommendations, right? Talking a lot about setting expectations and managing the future here, right? Deductible recommendations. Don't just go for low deductible. Find out what they can afford and offer that deductible. If they have a huge amount of assets, why not offer a higher deductible that could be a little bit better value for them and limit the number of claims, which will actually benefit them? We explain it. I talked to an insured today, was asking about the deductible. We brought it up. We talked about it, and I said, and she had a claim. She was questioning whether or not to do this claim, and we went over what the ramifications. It's $2,000. Just pay it. Don't file a claim when you have a $1,000 deductible. And those higher deductibles are going to limit the number of claims, which benefits them. LLP on your landlord policies, right? We're gonna bring up theft. We're gonna bring up vandalism. We're gonna manage the expectation for the inspection. Now, this also applies on the homeowners. You guys, I know these inspections have been coming back. I know that it's a challenge. Why not manage that expectation? It's simple. You just bring it up. Hey, are there any issues with the roof? Is there anything going on that we need to know about? Because we are going to send an inspector out. If we tell them, if we manage those expectations, if they're expecting it, then they don't blow their top when somebody shows up and then they get the letter that says, there's a situation with your roof. Right? So let's ask. Let's ask about those things. Now the cars, right? The bread and butter. You start with the amount uncovered that needs to be protected with your build-a-wall. And we talk about what it means. I love to quiz them. Tell me what it means. Hey, I'm curious. We're going to be recommending $250,000 with an umbrella. We went over the umbrella, but let's talk about the cars. Explain to me what your current liability limits mean. They don't know. And sometimes they do, and that's fine. Great. They have a good grasp of it. But when they don't, and you're able to explain it, and explain how it is going to limit the future pain when they're in an accident, and those people come after them, that's where you're being a trusted advisor. Talk about your uninsured and underinsured, line by line. Talk about the deductible. In our area, the $600 deductible is the best value with a $250 comp. It could be different from state to state, but just guidelines here, right? Ways that you can bring it in, but have it set. Kind of use the same rule of thumb. We do 600 because once they have gold, then it's actually 500, and you guys know that. If you're a MedPay state or you're a PIP, bring up that. Explain it. We must get into detail on these coverages and explain what it means and how it protects them, right? It's not just, all right, I have your I mean, I've heard the calls. We've heard calls both ways. We've heard the calls where, all right, I have your liability at 100, 300. I'm matching you apples to apples. I have the uninsured motorist at 100, 300. I have the deductible, right? Going through the thing like a robot. That's what Geico and Progressive are going to do. Maybe they're nice, right? They're not monotone, but they're not bringing value. I have you at $500,000 because we uncovered that you have $1 million worth of assets. In order to protect those $1 million of assets, we're recommending $250,000 for your liability protection and protecting that with excess liability in the form of an umbrella of $1 million or $2 million, whatever you come to. And explain a story. How will this actually impact them? If you're driving down the street, the little old lady pulls out in front of you at the mail from the post office, you don't see her because you spilled coffee on your lap, and you slam into her, even though she may have pulled out in front of you, it's your fault. And she's suing you. And her son, that's an attorney, is going to represent her. Because you broke her back. Right? Let's paint the picture. And of course, offer roadside and rental car. Make a note. If they don't want it, make a note. And then you're going to go through all the different discounts, right? The fun part. Explain full pay, explain e-bill, explain e-policy, explain DriveWise, explain Easy Pay. Get through all of the different discounts that are offered in your state so that they know that you're also bringing them the best value. Right? That's all the coverages. Any questions on the coverages? Let me know if there's any questions on that. I'm going to keep going because we got a lot to cover. Now the package. I've seen on the interwebs with different people discussing, the packages they offer. We always start with gold, and we recommend to all of our consulting clients they start with gold. It's the middle ground. You're bringing value. You're bringing them deductible rewards. You're bringing them accident forgiveness. The states where that isn't available, then skip this. But one of the great key fundamentals, write this down, guys. Tell them that they qualify for our gold package. You qualify. Great news. Great news, Jim. You qualify for our gold package. Let me explain what that means. It gives you accident forgiveness and gives you deductible rewards. So if you're in an accident, explain what that means, right? We have to explain because they don't know. We do this all day long. We know what this means. These folks have never heard it before. And if they have, they heard it on commercials, they're going to say they heard it. Explain it to them. More time, more commitment. Accident forgiveness. That means if you're in an accident and it's your fault, we're going to forgive it. You're not going to get nailed. You're not going to get a surcharge. You're not going to lose your Premier Plus discount. Now, let me paint another picture for you, Jim. If your car is parked, somebody hits it, they take off, and you come out, your car has been hit by another car, that will be filed under a collision, under your collision coverage, which could impact your rate. Let's also protect that with a gold package. Depending on what company you're with now, they may ding you for that. And now you, however they code it, you never know. They could code it as an at fault, and all of a sudden you got a problem. Let's protect it. Now I know everybody's has a different opinion or situation with DriveWise, but it is something that you can offer. I know there's some agents that don't even want to bring it up, but remember, if you're going to bring it up, if you're going to offer it, if you're going to do this, which helps, if you're going to bring up DriveWise, make sure that you tell them they qualify. Anything that you're offering to them, they qualify for. People love to qualify. The credit card companies are not stupid. Those mailers you get in the mail that say that you're pre-qualified, now, another way for future success, something that you can do is ask them, and you can have them sign off on it, whatever your different levels of comfort are. But you can tell them that, listen, if you're in an accident, we make a note here in eAgent, we post it. If you have a claim that's going to actually use your deductible reward, we can go ahead and bump you up to platinum so you get a second accident. In order to manage expectations, because I know there's been some stuff with the policy experience surcharge, we like to just say that they get 2 accidents. I want to go over that only because you never know what kind of wonky stuff can happen in the back end. But we want to make sure that we pre-plan, right? It's just like what we were talking about before. We need to manage expectations, set expectations, but down the road, this is additional premium. If we move them to platinum, and it protects them from that second accident that's going to impact their rate. Now let's talk about the office. We all work in an office. We all have a local family-owned business that we work at. We need to leverage that. People love it. Local family-owned. It's not a call center. In fact, there is a call center for emergencies. But if you need us, if there's something that you need that isn't an emergency, then you call the office. These are our office hours, and you're going to get one of the team. Again, not a call center. So dedicated service team, we like to tell them that we have a dedicated service team that can give advice and walk you through any claims or questions or anything you need. So it's not an 800 number. I challenge you to call. I keep picking on Geico. I challenge you to call Geico 1,000 times. You're going to get 1,000 different people. This is a huge thing, your office. How many are bringing it up, right? Bring up local, family-owned, not a call center, dedicated service team. And we do text, right? 24/7, email or text. You're going to get a response. If it's a huge deal, you're going to get a response. And finally, claim satisfaction guarantee. I threw Angie's List in there because it's something you can bring up. But describe claim satisfaction guarantee. I know that everybody's office has a story. You don't need to say that you guys screw up all the time, but you can point to the fact that, hey, listen, of the thousands of claims that we have a year, it's possible that something can go wrong. And in order to mitigate that and make it right, we actually will refund your premium. We are the only company that offers claim satisfaction guarantee. We need to leverage this. If you haven't brought this up on every single call, you're missing out. This is a huge, huge value build. I'm getting waved on time here. So let me, I'm going to wrap it up here. Just remember, your guarantee ensures that you will handle a claim 100% to your satisfaction. So just some scripting on what you can say. And I want to kick it out over here real quick. In the downloads right here, or you guys can't see it, in the handout section of your pane, your window, you can download this. This is also available in build value, which is in your sales vault. If you enter the vault, build values right here, and it's in templates, scripts, and worksheets, right? So that is this. This helps you with some scripting, different things that to help you walk through specifics. Now, if you have some great scripting that you use that highlights any of these sections, please send it over to bootcamp@agencyvault.com and we can integrate. We want to leverage the stuff that's working. So I'm going to kick it back over to Neil. He's going to get into one of the really, really fundamental and key steps, which is tying this all together with creating buy-in. Neil, you there?
Okay, awesome. Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Craig. Hey, great job there. So we have a series of questions. Actually, some of them, there's 6 or 7 are around the same sort of theme or question. Theme being like, this is awesome stuff. I'm getting a ton of value out of it. Where can I access it after these calls, right? There was 7 or so questions. Wait, how do I access this? Or where is he getting this? Guys and gals, listen. You must, if you are not, this is 3 weeks in now, if you don't have agencyvault.com open, myvault/salesvault, open every day, you're doing yourself a huge disservice. So when we get off this call, walk into your agent's office and say, name, I need my access. I need my access to my sales vault. All this stuff is there. The scripts are there. Everything you need to do on this to execute is there. But another question, it was more of a comment from Rodriguez. He said, this is awesome. Like, we don't